I don't have that stupid Obamacare. I'm covered by the Affordable Care Act.
The Affordable Care Act is Obamacare, genius.
I just had a patient say to me, thank God Trump was elected and we can get rid of this stupid Obamacare and go back to the ACA. Oh, I love being in my reputation era while they're in their fuck around and find out.
And which plan do you support, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
The Affordable Care Act.
And what is it about Obamacare that you do not like?
I just think that there's a lot of holes in it and it needs to be revamped.
What do you agree with, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
I'm more sort towards the Affordable Care Act.
So the Affordable Health Care Act is still a better option than Obamacare?
Yes.
So the Affordable Care Act is more affordable than Obamacare?
Just the name says it all.
Do you agree with the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare?
The affordable.
And why do you prefer the Affordable Care Act over Obamacare?
I just don't agree with the whole Obamacare policy thing that's going on. I just don't agree with it.
Do you support Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
I guess the Affordable Care Act.
And why do you prefer the Affordable Care Act over Obamacare?
I'm not really sure. My girlfriend supports Trump, so I go with whatever she says.
So you disagree with Obamacare?
Yes, I do.
Do you think insurance companies should be able to exclude people with pre-existing conditions?
No.
Do you agree that young people should be able to stay on their parents' plans until they are 26?
They should be able to, yes.
Do you agree that companies with 50 or more employees should provide health care?
I do.
And so by that logic, you would be for the Affordable Care Act?
Yes.
What plan do you support, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
The Affordable Care Act.
And why do you support that over Obamacare?
Do not like Obamacare. I don't like anything that has to be forced for everybody to buy. This is not good.
Do you think Obamacare is socialist?
Yes, I do.
Do you think the Affordable Care Act is socialist?
No.
A poll that was taken by NBC News shows a clear message: a majority of Trump supporters back extending Obamacare subsidies. Most of President Donald Trump supporters back keeping enhanced subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, which is Obamacare. The central obstacle in the ending government shutdown, according to the new poll from the Nonpartisan Health Policy Research Group. It was conducted on September 23rd through the September 29th, just days before Congress failed to pass a funding measure to keep the government open. More than 22 million people receive subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year unless Congress extends them. Losing the subsidies could mean the average out-of-pocket premium payment could double in 2026 from $888 a year to $1,904. You fucks make my buttocks itch so bad.
I cannot believe in the year of our Lord 2025 in the United States of America, there are people who live in this country who do not know that Obamacare was a slur by the Republicans for the ACA. I can't believe it. You know, the world used to think that Americans were intelligent and smart. But because of this TikTok, the world now realizes that Americans are easily manipulated, lied to, and they just absorb it into their brain.
MAGA Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene says Democrats are right about demanding subsidies for the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare be extended. Let me show you her clip.
And to allow Democrats to have some sort of moral high ground on this issue because they're the only ones talking about it, I think is a major failure from the Republican Party. And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the #1 issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about.
Undocumented immigrants in the United States cannot receive health insurance from Obamacare, from Medicaid, from Medicare. They are barred from doing so, okay? And the Republicans, all of the maggots, are saying that Democrats didn't want to vote on the spending bill that would have kept the government open because they're dying on the hill of giving health care to illegals. No, the reason the government is shutting down is because the Democrats refused to join a vote on the spending bill that would keep the government open. or would reopen it at this point. Why? Because MAGA wants to gut healthcare in this country for millions of people, even more than they already have.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Joy Report, where we get an outsider's view with an insider's clarity. It's one of those bitterly ironic moments in modern American politics, watching people cheer for policies that ultimately harm them, only to later realize what they've lost. The story of MAGA supporters discovering they voted against their own healthcare has become a stunning example of how misinformation, identity politics, and sheer stubbornness can reshape an entire nation's well-being. Before we proceed, all credit goes to the creators of these videos. Let's watch a few more clips, and I'll be back with more commentary.
Hold up. Y'all actually didn't know Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act are one and the same? Y'all made up the name. Y'all made it up. Y'all started calling it Obamacare. It had a name first. The name has always been the Affordable Care Act. Then y'all named it Obamacare. Did you forget? See, this is how I know y'all just hating indiscriminately. Y'all don't even know what y'all be hating. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he was black. That's what y'all do like. Why y'all ain't just look it up? Why you ain't just look it up? I guess so.
Okay, guys, we got to take it easy on MAGA. I mean, yes, sure, they falsely believe that Democrats want to give health benefits to the undocumented migrants, even though it has always been a federal law that states that undocumented migrants do not get access to the ACA. But speaking of the ACA, guys, you got to remember who we're talking to. We're talking to people who have willful ignorance. They won't research anything. I mean, don't forget, these are literally the same group of people who thought that Obamacare and the ACA were two completely different programs. Okay, so you got to understand the intelligence level that they have and what you're trying to compete with. I mean, nobody can stoop down to a level that damn low when you just it's comical at times, but also sad at times, because like they truly do not know how to think for themselves. I mean, whatever Mike Johnson says, because they're just not intelligent. I mean, that is the reason why Trump loves them so much and Trump hates us. Remember what he said, smart people don't like me. And notice how all the people that like Trump are not the smart ones.
Across social media, countless Americans are now expressing frustration, not just with politicians, but with their own friends and family members who, out of loyalty to a political brand, turned their backs on something that directly benefited them: affordable healthcare. The Affordable Care Act, widely known as the ACA, was designed to make health insurance accessible to millions of Americans who otherwise couldn't afford it. What they didn't realize was that Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act are literally the same thing. It sounds unbelievable, but countless interviews and street surveys over the past decade have revealed just that. When asked if they supported the Affordable Care Act, many Trump supporters said yes, but when asked about Obamacare, they angrily said no, not realizing they were the same law. The only difference was the name attached to it. One carried the association of President Barack Obama, and that for some was enough reason to reject it. It wasn't about policy, it was about identity. It was about race. It was about refusing to give credit to a black man in the Oval Office who had done something genuinely transformative for working-class Americans. The ACA wasn't perfect. No major reform ever is, but it brought millions of people into the healthcare system, banned insurance companies from denying coverage due to pre-existing conditions, and allowed young adults to stay on their parents' plans until age 26. These were monumental changes that directly improved the lives of ordinary Americans, including the very same communities that would later rally behind DT. But DT understood something many underestimated: the power of resentment. He didn't need to convince people with facts. He only had to feed their anger. He famously said, "I love the poorly educated," and as cruel as that sounded, it wasn't just a gaffe. It was strategy. He knew that emotional manipulation was more powerful than logic. By constantly mocking, dividing, and stoking fear, he created a movement that prided itself on rejecting elites, experts, and liberal media, even when those were the very sources of the truth. So when DT and Republican lawmakers began attacking the Affordable Care Act, many of his supporters cheered, not realizing they were cheering for the loss of their own coverage. They were told Obamacare was bad, that it was government overreach, that it was socialism. They didn't stop to ask why it was bad or who was telling them that. They simply believed it because it filled their worldview, because it came from their political team. And that's where identity politics, something conservatives often accuse liberals of using, actually worked most effectively on the right. This wasn't about policy or ideology. It was about belonging. It was about being part of the MAGA movement, standing against the other side, and rejecting anything associated with Obama. Years later, as some of those same voters are losing their insurance or see prices skyrocket after Republican efforts to dismantle the ACA, the reality is beginning to sink in. They realized too late that they had voted against their own interests, against the very system that was keeping them healthy, keeping their prescriptions affordable, and keeping their families secure. People voted for politicians who promised to destroy the evil Obamacare, not realizing that it was the Affordable Care Act, the very law that had made their lives just a bit easier.
So the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is actually most important to the people that are living in red states. Florida, Texas, Georgia lead the nation in enrollment. Together, these three states alone account for almost 10 million people relying on ACA subsidies in order to be able to afford their health insurance. In Florida, 1 in 5 residents depend on the ACA. In Texas and Georgia, it's closer to 1 in 8. So when Republican lawmakers in Congress say that they're fine letting the subsidies expire at the end of 2025, they're directly hurting their own voters, their constituents.
And when the US government shut down, many didn't even understand why. They blamed the Democrats without knowing that the shutdowns often happened because Democrats were trying to protect healthcare funding, trying to keep the ACA alive amid relentless Republican attempts to gut it. The same party fighting for their access to healthcare was the one they had been taught to hate. This pattern of ignorance and misplaced loyalty has deep roots. Many MAGA voters were drawn in by cultural grievances rather than policies. They felt alienated, angry, and left behind by a changing America, and the T gave them a villain to blame. Immigrants, liberals, minorities, the media, anyone but the billionaires and corporations who are actually benefiting from their pain. Now, as the consequences of those choices become harder to ignore, there's a grim satisfaction among those who warned this would happen. But it's a bittersweet kind of sweetness, because the suffering is real. Millions are paying the price for decisions rooted in misinformation, prejudice, and pride. The story of Obamacare versus the Affordable Care Act will go down in history as one of America's greatest political ironies. It exposed how deeply race and identity can cloud judgment, and how easily people can be manipulated when they choose emotion over education. It's a lesson in the power of propaganda, and a reminder that democracy only works when citizens are informed. Had more people taken the time to understand what the Affordable Care Act actually was, to look beyond the headlines and the partisan talking points, they might have realized it was one of the few policies that genuinely tried to help them. They might have realized that healthcare isn't a privilege but a right, and that the politicians trying to take it away were never on their side. But they didn't. They let anger and prejudice guide their votes. They believed the lies. And now, as the consequences play out, as hospitals close, premiums rise, and protections disappear, many of them are finally seeing the truth. It is a painful awakening, but perhaps a necessary one, because only when people realize that they've been used, that they've been made to vote against their own interest, can the healing begin. Maybe then, America will start to move beyond the hate and division that brought it here. Maybe then, people will start voting not out of fear or resentment, but out of understanding and compassion. Until then, the irony will stand as a cautionary tale, a reminder that ignorance is the most dangerous disease of all, and that there really is nothing sadder than watching people realize they've been cheering for their own downfall.
Found out that the reason that some of the poor MAGA don't believe that anything's going to happen to their healthcare is because they don't realize they're on Medicaid because their state calls it something else.
So what do you all think? Do you believe Americans are finally starting to wake up to how badly they've been misled? And most importantly, if people can vote against their own healthcare, what else might they be convinced to vote against next time? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I would love to keep this discussion going. Otherwise, that's it from me. I also have another video specifically tailored for you. And if you enjoy such kind of content, please click up here and enjoy. Also, please join my channel and I would really appreciate it. Lastly, consider subscribing, liking and sharing because it helps me grow my channel and helps YouTube recommend this video to a wider audience. But for now, thank you so much for watching. And until the next time, the Joy Reports out.